Hello and welcome to another edition of Relatable. I'm your host, Stephanie Michele. Do you notice anything different? Look at our new set. If you're watching via Facebook Live, let us know what you think of the changes. The big question for today is, how do you get a bull in a China store to calm down, connect, and listen? Any ideas? Think about it. He's big, he's angry, and he's confined. He's bumping into things and he's hearing loud crashes. He has little understanding for how he got there and has no idea how to get out. As things are crashing around him, he trusts no one. Do you wear him out so he gets tired and he's easier to capture or guide out? Do you offer him food or water to gain his trust? I really don't have the answers to this dilemma. I do know if the bull is a narcissist, you're going to have to play very nice and be very strategic and intelligent about every move you make, weighing out all the variables and the potential outcomes. The absolute worst thing you can do is keep poking at him with a stick. Last week, Democratic Rep. Maxine Waters encouraged her supporters to harass Trump administrative officials by telling her people to harass people in public places like restaurants. She went on to say, I have no sympathy for these people that are in administration who know it's wrong what they're doing and are doing nothing. But they're doing nothing, but they don't want to confront the president. Waters went on to say, really? Does she really know do these people really know that they're doing something wrong? And how does she know this? Republicans called on Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi to condemn her colleagues, and she responded with a tweet, if that actually is a response, and this is what it said. In the crucial months ahead, we must strive to make America beautiful again. Trump's daily lack of civility has provoked responses that are predictable and unacceptable. As we go forward, we must conduct elections in a way that achieve unity from sea to shining sea. So, if you poke the bear, or in this case a bull, while expressing the need for unity, are you really in a position to advocate for unity? Can we please, for the love of God, get some grown-ups in political offices, people who pass basic tests for their ability to learn, communicate, empathize, and weigh out the pros, cons, and variables to the issues, and just listen. People who practice a bit of humility and concern for others, and listen and think before letting their egotistic desire to hear their own voice get in the way of doing good work. I have never had the desire to run for political office, mainly because the thought of making that band of knuckleheads my tribe is horrific and horrifying. But then again, I do believe in unity and figuring out a way to come together as a collective we to make good decisions for all. My guest today has run for office before, and knowing what I know about him, I wish he would try again. Maybe you can help me convince him to do so by the end of this show? I don't know. Let's meet him. So joining me today is Francis DellaVecchia. He boasts a proven track record of rising to numerous and interesting challenges across the spectrum of industries, from entertainment to politics. He actually ran for mayor of LA in 2001, nonprofits and tech. He is currently a partner at Paper Lantern, a firm dedicated to building and scaling companies that give humanity a brighter tomorrow. Amen to that. Francis considers himself a joyful activist. He is a joyful activist. You guys are going to know this in a minute. And he is committed to using service as a source to continuously bring people, business, and ideas together in relationships that are mutually beneficial, my favorite phrase, for our planet and each other. Welcome, Francis.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So glad that you're here with me today.
Me too.
Haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah.
This is good. So every time a guest sits down next to me, I always give them a chance to just let anything that's distracting them, let it out. So if there's anything that you're kind of thinking about before we talk about unity, our topic for today, is there anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think that what you alluded to in the beginning, the daily distraction for all of us, and the urge perhaps to look at one's screen of choice first thing you wake up.
Yeah.
and see what happened today,
Yeah.
like what happened overnight, and how awful is the world,
Yeah.
right? And that'll play into what I would like to talk about, because the more we and I look at that and think, what's happening to those people over there, or what did they do,
Yeah.
or like what are they taking from me?
Yeah.
There's a whole different mindset that I'm trying to inculcate in myself. That isn't about, oh, well, that's what's happening out there, but like, how do I see it as myself being part of all this?
Yeah.
And it's not, it's like the adage of, oh, I'm sitting in terrible traffic. Well, like, you are traffic.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, we're traffic, I'm traffic, you're like, we are the traffic.
Right.
The traffic isn't doing something to
Yeah.
us, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
So I'd say that would be the
I
thing
would.
I'd start with.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, what comes up for me when you say that is I often say, what is my role in it? Like, I have a low tolerance, not zero tolerance, we're going to talk about that, I'm sure, but a low tolerance for a person that doesn't accept or see their role in it, and they're talking about everybody, like the theys that you're talking about, everybody else, but nope, I am very blind to my own role in it. So I hear what you're saying, and yeah, it's something, if I had a magic wand and I could wish a skill onto everybody, it would be that, to know your own role in it, Well, so the interesting thing in your bio was service as source. Can you talk about that?
I can. So, I mean, this was put in those exact words to me back at a festival, Earth Dance. Many moons ago, and I was at a pretty low point in life. I had recently come off a breakup, and this was it was a music festival, but there was also a whole component of a mini component called Gathering of the Tribes, where people who did festivals and small gatherings on public lands were coming together to share resources. And I was just at a real low point of like not really caring about much of anything, just sort of going through the motions and being there. And I got into a very interesting conversation with a gentleman who put forward the notion that, like, just reminded me that I had forgotten, like, why am I doing anything? Period. Like, why do anything?
Right.
It's easy to get very existential in this life and think about, what is any of this for? Like, why bother with anything, right? And he said, remember, like, service is source. Meaning, when everything else seems hopeless, what are you serving? What am I serving? What am I in service of? What are my gifts, my tools, my experiences? How am I serving humanity, the greater good, the universe, whatever? And coming back to that in a culture of what can often be me. What can I get? What can I get from you? And how much can I get here? And how much can I pull in? How much can I amass? And think about it in the opposite way of, what can I give?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just so much, I could give that, and I can give this to you, and I can give you my time, and I can give you my money, and I can, and it just becomes a whole different.
It actually comes back to you too. I mean, we've heard it over and over. When you give a gift to someone or a compliment, that it comes back, and gratitude, or maybe new inspiration or something. But that exchange, often you have to give to have like a source moment, right? Where you're like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm here for, right?
Right.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Service as a source. Well, can you share a little bit before the festivals, before running for mayor? Like, how were you? A little bit about your childhood. How are you raised? So we know a little bit. Where did Francis come from?
I was brought up in New Jersey, in the suburbs. It was a nice mix. I think I got a pretty. I lucked out in a lot of ways. My parents were Depression era people. My father was in World War II. I was the last of 5 children by a mile. And so I got there very, like, really that first generation immigrant trying to be as American as possible. Yet my grandmother lived with us, and my grandmother barely spoke English, from Italy. She had grown up in the hills of Italy. And so I had this unique view into that whole approach to life, which was very handmade, always making homemade pasta and sausage and pizza and whatnot in the kitchen, and just a very different approach to life. She had seen her life started with going to the well, no telephones, no television, no radio, no anything, right? And so having that as somewhat of an anchor through this, like, let's be as American as possible through to me in a very suburban New Jersey household, I think I got a very nice mix of how to approach life.
It sounds like there was some respect for slowing down, and there's shortcuts, like maybe the American way is, take the shortcut, but what you got was like, let's slow down and hand make pasta and
from grandma for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. She would also, so I would, I think I got involved in many activities like a lot of kids do. I liked to play my clarinet, my saxophone, and I played sports, and I did all these things. And every time, she was a real proponent of music and literature and sort of the finer cultural aspects of life. And so every time I would play my clarinet or my saxophone, she'd make sure to pass me on the stairs as I was coming back up, and she'd slip me $1.
Oh,
and she'd be like,
good job.
Keep it up, Frankie. Keep it up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Do you have a memory of the first time you actually cared about something outside of yourself or your family? Like looking at the world and going, I care about that.
I put it in this, here's my context. My context is the first time I actually felt like I was doing something that had an impact beyond just me or the family, and it was actually in Boy Scouts.
Okay.
So it may be difficult to imagine for those of you of a different generation, but once upon a time recycling was not prevalent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as a Boy Scout, maybe a Cub Scout even, so maybe 8, 9 years old, there was a recycling center in town. And the Boy Scouts would go, and the other Scouts and the other organizations would go, and we would literally go and collect people's bottles and bring them to the recycling center, and then you'd have to break the glass. And so one of the jobs was throwing the bottles at each other to break the glass so that it could be recycled.
Yeah.
Right?
Which has got to be a young boy's dream.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
let's break things.
And just this whole notion of, we are taking all this glass and cans and whatnot out of the stream and recycling it was it doesn't sound like much now where you throw everything in a blue bin, but at the time it was we're not throwing everything in the garbage. And why is that? And sort of that 8 and 9-year-old brain making that connection of how this can help other people. So I'd say that was probably one of the first. And I think another one was actually in church, of all things, for Lent, they had this program where they encouraged each of these suburban families to eat a super simple meal once a week during Lent, and then all the money that you saved you'd put in this actual big rice bowl at the church, and then that money would go to people who didn't have enough to eat. So that was tangible. Okay, we're going to eat whatever. We're going to eat macaroni and cheese. That's the whole meal tonight. And all the money we're saving, Frank, as I was then, Francis, you can go up and you can put the money in the rice bowl, and it goes and feeds all these people.
That's a great program to bring back or do in a group of friends,
cool.
Right? Because it's there's tangible actions tied into it instead of just putting money somewhere. So you can kind of, I did this, and this is the result of that.
It was very bright.
Yeah,
it was very bright.
Really good. I think you could do that with a group of friends. Easy.
Sure.
Easy. That might be our social challenge of the week. I don't know. Look how easy that was. All right. Well, I know you can handle this question, so I want to ask this question. What do you think comes first, especially in your own life, this greater sense of self or a outside feeling of I've got to do something for the world? Do you learn about, through your interest, do you learn about self, or do you learn about self first, I guess is the question.
I think the beautiful approach, if you can make it simultaneous.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of like a teeter-totter.
If one can learn about oneself in relation to the world and have it be a perfect feedback loop, and so you put yourself in a situation, you've got enough presence to, and to step away, see yourself third person in a situation, take a moment afterwards and like, oh, that wasn't very skillful.
Yeah.
That really was not skillful the way I approached that. How can I let that inform what I do next, both on my own and back in a similar situation, right? And I think that is the way, and I'll say that I think that I come to that because I spent, and I think maybe we all do, but certainly I did spend a fair amount of time growing up with people who really had no self-awareness and let their emotions really take charge. And to their own detriment, to the detriment of those around them, to the ones that they were firsthand interacting with, but then the whole group that might surround them and family, like it has a lot of ramifications.
Yes.
Right? And if you continue to not have any awareness around yourself, you are that bull in the china shop, just sort of going through, and you're literally not sure why stuff's breaking.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Stuff keeps breaking, and you're like, who's breaking all that stuff? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because you don't even know that it's you.
Yeah, you're so disconnected. I totally relate to everything that you said. I definitely grew up this way, and it's so sad that we look at something like being a little bit vulnerable or being curious, or like, I don't have the answers, but I'm going to try this. As weakness, because those are the moments where we do learn something, and the more that you lean into those moments, the easier they become, and then you start to develop a pattern for learning and growing. And to me, that in our political climate in the world today, anything, we've talked about this on the show a lot, anything that divides us, anything that makes the news that's dividing us. Oh, you live in a big city, I live in the country, you're gay, I'm straight, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. Those are not the divides. What we're talking about is the divide, I think. That you either you accept yourself as a work in progress, you accept vulnerability as a part of growing, and you continue to grow and learn, and you're open for new ideas and sitting down with someone and talking and checking yourself as a way to check yourself, or you're not. And or you're not group of people, like, they just didn't get to do that, and it probably gets a little harder to do it later in life, right?
Yeah.
I wish we had a better way to reach out and share and listen to stories across that divide. That to me feels like the divide.
I mean, this to me gets to a piece I wrote that reflects a lot of my current thinking, is really if I feel this, if I'm unaware of myself in a situation and how I affect others, then it's also likely that I see myself as entirely separate from you, from everybody. Like, I am this island in the world, right? And we know from the most basic of science that we are actually all made up of the same matter. Like, this isn't fluffy woo-woo stuff. This is like, all the matter came from one place. We are that matter. I'm of the same matter, the same stardust. We are the same matter. We're all going to go back to the same matter. Like, if you're a Bible, like, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Like, we are all that. Yeah. Right? So this illusion that you are actually different than me, or that an animal is different or other, it is just that illusion. Yeah. Right? So now if I move across that divide and realize that, well, actually, not just that I empathize with you, but like, I am you. Yeah. You are me. You are me. Yeah. We are all each other. I have to have an entirely different way of dealing with that, because I wouldn't deal with a mirror of myself that way. I wouldn't be that bull in that china shop if I thought I was doing it to myself. Yeah. Right? And this, like, the clear extrapolation is right now, if you can look at any child, I don't care white, black, brown, if you can look at any child and say, I don't care what happens to that kid. I don't care if it goes to jail. I don't care, right? Clearly, that person is not in the mindset of that child is me. That mother is me. That daughter is me. That father, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have to have a different response because you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps in here. Yes, I agree with all that. I also think about the myth of independence in this equation too, that there is no such thing, and yet like every opportunity via media, social media in particularly, like look at me and my selfie, and I'm self-made. I hate that expression. It's absolutely untrue. There is an interdependence at all times, in all places.
Sure.
In this building, I'm dependent on my landlord to keep the building up. You know, I'm dependent on Beatrice behind the camera. Like, there is an interdependence that we rely on, and that's the universal order. So to like separate and say that is, I don't care about this child, at some point, it does matter. It does connect to you, and it's like the earlier you get on board, the earlier you are on this universal thing that just, it's nature, that's like showing us everything is connected. Everything is connected. I think that's at the deepest root of someone that's like trying to really talk about unity and do that work. It's like they know that. Like even if there were no facts to show that that is true, it's like in their heart that they know that is a true thing.
Yeah, and then we come up against the harsh reality of particularly American culture at sort of the pinnacle of modern culture, really existing on, there's a lot of money and power to be gained by reinforcing separation.
Yes.
Right? So from the political system on down, the more we can separate, probably within this current system, the better we're going to do politically and the more money we're going to make. Right? If we can show that like those people are bad, come hang with these people and you're going to be powerful and you're going to be wealthy, and you can look at that from the national political level, you can look at it in advertising. Everywhere you go in this culture, there's people making money and getting more power off of reinforcing that separation.
I think that's the other myth that we have to bust, is that this idea, that American dream myth, that, you know, that yes, if this person's making money, that it's possible for you, because everywhere I look, I mean, I live in downtown Los Angeles, not too far away from Skid Row, and you know, it used to be a couple blocks, it's several blocks. There's tents everywhere. There's tents everywhere here and in any urban city, you know, under the expressways. Like, you can't tell me something's going on where people believed into something, you know, and then it wasn't true, and now, you know, there's this big divide between the wealthy and the poor. I mean, I don't know really about middle class anymore. I really...
Yeah, and it's been a brilliant, I'll say, propaganda advertising job over the years, because very few, if any, people in America identify as working class. They identify mostly as temporarily inconvenienced millionaires.
Yeah, or entrepreneur. I mean, we use that
they
term.
are they are in their head, they are already
potential.
millionaires. Right? And it's just like there's just been a temporary something they got in, but they're there. Like in their head, they're already millionaires because clearly everybody else is a millionaire. Because you know, I mean, it's kind of amazing the way it's been pulled off in this country, that like we've been sold that.
Yeah. Through our memes and our sound bites, you know, it's like, I call that fast food content, by the way. It's making you sick, you know. Oh, if someone says, believe in your dreams, and, you know, then you should, not be practical, you know, whatever, think about it. What else do you care about right now? Like, what's really some of your hot button issues, and then if you are working on them, what are you doing?
Yeah, I would say that we're at a very interesting time where, again, clearly fear is a very powerful motivator. And, you know, you can look at basically every administration policy that's being enacted one after another, and they're all based on fear. They're all based on reinforcing the fear of some segment of the population about some other segment of the population. And so, once upon a time, I was more of the thought that well, if enough of us just live the way that we feel life should be lived and feel a sense of unity and share empathy with others, that eventually we'll sort of gain enough critical mass that will topple that tipping point, and others will join the fold that maybe right now are still clenching onto their fear. But I came to a realization that there's actually folks who are in that mindset also typically have a lack of respect for outward shows of compassion or empathy. And
it's considered weakness.
They actually respect power and strength. And so how do we, en masse, show that unity actually equals strength? Because when we can show that, now we start to bring over the people who actually respect power and strength.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is, it's not weak. It's not always being soft, right? Someone asked me once, you know, I really think that someone like a Donald Trump, and it doesn't have to be him, but someone like him who clearly he's feeling a lot of pain. Like if you need to coat your entire life in gold, you're feeling a lot of pain, right? If you're always of that ilk that someone's out to get you, need to reinforce your narcissistic evil, clearly you're in a lot of pain. And so, you know, I've said, if I believe truly that I am him and he is me, we are all one, then I want him to be alleviated of that pain.
Absolutely.
Not for the sake of anybody else, yes, that too, but really for his sake.
Yeah.
Like, I want him. And so someone said, well, you know, he's causing a lot of pain, and so he doesn't deserve to be. I'm like, and you're being too soft on him. Like, well, wait a minute. How do you know how we would alleviate his pain? Like, for instance, going to jail for a year might be what he needs to alleviate his pain, because it gets him out of that cycle and teaches him empathy and compassion. Like, I'm not saying that the solution has to be soft. Like, going to the Amazon and doing plant medicine for 6 months may be what he needs. Like, I don't know what he needs. Wishing him to be alleviated of pain doesn't mean I wish for him a soft life.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Right?
It's like you
I wish for people.
your children.
I wish for people the things that let them break free.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it may be really hard.
Yeah.
It may be the hardest thing they've ever done. It might be painful, maybe super painful. And I wish that for them so that they get out of their pain.
Absolutely. I mean, growth by its nature is painful. A little sprout coming out of the ground, like any opportunity to grow are the things we reflect on and go, oh, didn't like that moment in the present of it, in the now of it. But man, I'm glad that I went through that. I'm so much a better person on the other side of that. So yeah, like while you were talking, I kept in my head, hurt people, you know, like absolutely this person has pain. And I agree, like who knows, you know, it's not about just being soft, like who knows what the resolve is, but please grow. Like please be put in this situation.
And for people like that, if we can imagine a future where what's admired is the power of unity, the power of mutual compassion, then perhaps we can imagine where someone like a Donald Trump would need to play to that instinct in order to get elected rather than the fear instinct.
Totally. So,
right? And then even if you're going at it for selfish reasons, you would need to be on the side of unity because that's where the power is. And you couldn't win through fear anymore.
So, you know, I feel like we're sometimes 50% there, because people will say, well, we believe in power in numbers, right? Like a lot of people believe in that. Well, let's just come together. That's one of the best benefits of social media, by coming together and being able to protest or organize something, or aiding your voice into a situation, right? So we believe in that. Most people believe in that, power in numbers, right? Where we have a hard time convincing people, if we're going to talk about unity, is love is profitable, or unity is profitable. Like, can we talk about that? Like, what can we say to them? I have an idea.
we're talking in, like, most specifically in terms of business.
Yeah.
Right? So this is exactly why I've joined my partners at Paper Lantern, because we're a company that helps other companies get to where they want to be next. In some cases, they're very early stage, and we're getting them up and started and getting their team together and figuring out how they commercialize. In other cases, at the other end of the spectrum, they're going public. And we're just helping them figure out the going public aspect and going much wider. And we're working in what we call emerging markets. So that means full spectrum health and wellness, for everything from botanicals all the way down to cannabis. It means blockchain, and it means entertainment. The things that have like real power to make a big difference across a wide swath of the population right now. If you think about something like, CBD, which is absolutely harmless to at all levels, and if you think about the potential for that to replace opiates for millions of people, right, and the kind of good that can do.
Yeah.
So helping make things like that happen, but more importantly, actually, to any of the one projects we might work on, it starts with how do we work together. So it starts with 4 partners, and then we have others around us. But what does that interrelating look like? Because in the end, I care less about the particular project we're working on than how does this organism function and how do I relate to the other people? Because if we're doing it with joy and we're helping each other out and we're helping our clients out and everybody wins, it's less important like what these projects are. But then it does, okay, so the next step is how do you interface with a client or a partner or someone that you're raising money for or with or an investor? And how does each deal reflect we all need to win? Right? How do we get out of the mindset of, like, for this to work, I need to get 90% and you need to get 10%, and I need to hide that somewhere so you don't even know that you're getting 10%, right?
Yeah.
And then how do we bring it wider, and how do we let others in the community participate in this? How can this be, certainly in the case of blockchain and crypto, how can more people participate in the case of something like a conscious film fund? How can we let as many people participate so that they don't just get to consume the content and promote the content, but they get to profit from the content, right? So how can all of these ecosystems that we're building make sure that there is no one getting the short end of the stick?
Yeah. What I think the other equation or the additional equation to this mix is, I think you answered that really well. I think the other thing about this is timing. Like, so I absolutely believe leaning into unity or love or being more compassionate about how you're working together does ultimately end in more profitability for more people, right? It just takes a little longer to get there. So in my business, I do marketing, right? And I focus on retention marketing. So forming a long-term relationship with the client where now you can look at the lifetime value of that person as opposed to that quick sale. Like, you spend so much more money getting that person one time than you do to retain them. Yeah. So I think that's the other thing that we have to remember is like, it's possible. It's gonna take a little bit more time, and that's okay. That's totally okay. It's just more thorough. Yeah. These quick decisions that people are making without knowing all the variables is potentially the most dangerous thing that's going on in our government right now. And probably in businesses, in some businesses as well, like quick Band-Aids and not addressing every aspect of the issue at hand. So, if there's anything, like, I like promoting slowing down. Obviously, we're doing like a 55-minute internet show, but God, just slow down, people. Like, slow down, meditate. Yeah. Please. All right, so there's a couple things in the news about unity that we can talk about. Of course, I talked about a little bit, I alluded to in the opening monologue about what's going on the Hill and what they're talking about in terms of immigration and zero tolerance. It's a really strong phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how is it that we can have zero tolerance for another person, like, if we are connected?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Do you want to talk any more about this?
Sure. I mean, I saw, so I'll kick it off with something I just saw someone posted. If someone is willing to flee their war-torn life with their child and walk across the desert for 1,000 miles or whatever it is, that kind of commitment, I'd love to have that person as my next door neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
They're so grateful. I mean, you know.
And another is the notion of, so, you know, talking specifically around Central American immigrants right now. You know, people who by and large don't speak English, are largely unskilled, and, you know, fleeing in most cases community violence, in other cases domestic violence, in some cases both, with their children. So if the notion is these people are taking my job, what is your career? That an unskilled non-English speaker is taking, like, what job are you doing that they're taking? You're a dishwasher in a restaurant, or you're picking grapes? Like, what are you doing? And if that is what you're skilled to do, maybe think about another career, right? But certainly, whether it's, you know, people fleeing countries in Africa, the Middle East, and getting in boats, or in the case of Central America, going across the desert, things have to be really bad where you live to pick up your handful of belongings, what you can carry on your back, and in many cases your children, and go somewhere where you know you're not going to speak the language, and you're basically throwing yourself at the mercy of the court system or whoever lands you there. Like, things need to be really bad for you to even make that journey. And what we can look at, I think, from the developed world, whether it's now Europe, which is also going very right-wing, or the United States, once again is, okay, I get that from, I'm sitting here in America, I get that there's a barrier here and we want to make sure that not just everybody comes in. Okay, we'll take that as a proposition. So if I really am at one with these people and I want them to lead the best life possible, and I understand that right now they can't all live here, then the best thing I can do is make sure that the conditions back in their homeland are as great as possible, so they don't need to leave, because they didn't want to leave in the first place. And what we don't do, by and large, is do anything about the conditions back in Honduras or back in El Salvador or back in Syria or wherever that made these people want to flee.
Yeah.
Right? That would be the thing, like, you're my brother, you're my sister, I am you, I am your child, I am your mother. We need to take a step, and, like, what can we do to keep these people in solid countries that have functioning democracies and economies that they can actually make a better life for themselves.
Or, and I don't know if this is a thing, or you may not either, but I've also thought about this, like, are we doing anything to at least reach out to these areas to, in their language and their culture, and let them know the right way to come here, like the safe way to come here, like to, are, you know, is there any, like, outreach to say?
There's not much of a right way left, is the harsh reality. There, you know, if I've got, you know, if I've got a spouse who's beating me right now, and or I've got a local gang who's going to kill me for my land, for my property, because I said the wrong thing, because whatever it is, because I won't grow what they want me to grow for their drug trade, whatever. If that's happening right now, me getting on a list to maybe get a visa to come to the US in 10 years is not really a functional solution.
Right.
Right? Like, I need to flee tonight.
I'm wondering if this is an opportunity for some really cool nonprofits to, you know, to, like, sponsor people, you know, to, you know, emergency, there should be an emergency visa. I mean, there should be something that, like, look, this, I can call this number and you know, I can at least go somewhere that's safe. You know, let's not hold them at the border. Let's, like, have a safe place that they can go to.
That's supposed to be what asking for asylum is. And what we've essentially now done with the Trump administration and Jeff Sessions is taken away the ability to ask for asylum. So the way it's been is I show up, I'm going to be dead if I go back to my hometown in Honduras. I'm throwing myself at your mercy, I'm asking for asylum, you put me aside, and you put an ankle bracelet on me, and then I get a trial to see if I deserve asylum, right? And it is not a crime to ask for asylum. What we've decided is there's no more asking for asylum. It's a crime as soon as you walk across the border. So now you're charged with a misdemeanor and we're throwing you in jail. No more ankle bracelet. You're not going to get a trial. You're just going to get thrown back. Right? So asylum is supposed to be that sort of fail-safe, that little release that like there's a way if you qualify for asylum, and we've basically said no more. It's a problem. Because those in power don't believe that they are us. This could never happen to them. This could never happen to their children. They could never be in this situation.
And
so they don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, just go back to what you said earlier. It's like, what are you so worried about? Like, give them a chance. Like, what are they absolutely doing to you personally? Like, why is I don't understand why this has become such a thing.
On a macro level,
yeah.
The United States is getting browner, and the Republican Party is getting whiter. So the more brown people that eventually are citizens and have children and vote, the less likely there's ever going to be more Republicans. Like that is the reasoning.
Well, I wish there's
at its core.
Yeah, I know.
Like that's what it comes down to.
And I wish they knew, as a 45-year-old woman with no children, I wish they knew that as long as you create policy that makes it harder for me to earn a good living, and you take taxes from so many taxes for being self-employed entrepreneur, and don't allow me to feel comfortable enough to raise a family. My white body is not reproducing, like that's seriously, right? Like that we're making decisions because of other policy that doesn't create a situation where I feel like I have a chance here. So you want more white people in this country. I mean that sounds so.
What they want is like they're practicing a unique, not so unique, but they are practicing a technique of gathering like the small unity, like the small U unity. What we're talking about is unity of everything.
Yeah.
But there's like small U unity of there's us against all of them.
That's not unity.
Right? Well.
Yeah.
But those who feel part of it and like those who feel that warm embrace of, oh, I found my tribe.
Yeah.
I found my tribe. We're white. Keep the brown ones out. Like as long as we can make America white again, and we'll all be good, and we just got to keep that out there, and it's effective.
Yeah.
Like it's very effective because you can look at someone like, oh, you're on my team. I mean, it's like wearing a jersey in a soccer match, right? It's like, oh, you're white, you're on my team. I get it. Okay. Okay, we're all on the same team. Cool. Let's keep everyone who doesn't look like us. We'll keep them out, and everything will be good. We'll just keep all the stuff for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like it's very easy. I love sharing this story because I think it talks about like somewhere back in the reptilian brain of what we're up against, right? So I've been an actor in the course of my life, way back when, and for a while I did some extra work, and I got to be an extra on the Star Wars TV show, Star Trek. Star Trek TV show, and I was a Romulan. That day, so I got the face. I was in makeup for an hour or whatever it was. I get the whole thing, Romulan. Now there were probably 60 extras that day. Yeah. But there were no big scenes. It's just like there's a scene with like 2 Romulans and 3 humans, and there's one with like 4 Klingons in this, and you never really got to be with everybody, right? And so most of the time, for those of you who don't know what extra work is like, you basically sit there with your book and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you go on the set for like 20 minutes and you do your thing, and then you go back and you sit and you read your book. So lunchtime comes, and now remember, no one knows anybody. We all just showed up there that morning. Nobody knows anybody, but there's Romulans and there's Klingons and there's humans, etc. So I go, and I couldn't be making this up. I go, I get my lunch, I get my tray. I get the lunch on my tray, I go to sit down, and it's like cafeteria tables, and over there All the Romulans are sitting with the
No,
Romulans.
I
All the
knew you were going
Klingons are
there.
sitting with the
I knew you were
Klingons.
going
All
there.
the humans are sitting with the humans. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is, you people don't know each other.
Yeah.
You just have the same makeup.
Yeah.
For real? But it's that powerful.
Yeah.
It's that powerful. Like, we want to be with something that's like us
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
So I went and sat with the Klingons.
You did?
I had to.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
I mean, I
Francis.
saw one and they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like,
There's two favorite parts of this story for me. One, that you sat and read a book. You weren't texting on the phone, even though it was probably bad, but whatever. But I'm still going to give you credit. He read a book. He wasn't sitting texting. And two, this.
there were no mobile phones when I did this.
I was guessing that, but I'm like, I think even today you would probably sit with a book than be glued to, your phone. But yeah, isn't that interesting? It's like safety versus curiosity, right? Like safety is kind of boring, but it's safe. It's comfortable. It's like, this is the statistics why people that are in an abusive relationship go and find somebody else that's just as abusive, because they know it. But curiosity is adventurous, and like you learn and you grow, and like, yeah, you might scuff your knee or something, like you might mess up, but you know better and you don't do it the next time. This concept really gets to me. Like I really, like I wish I could take a group of people to something like Burning Man that would like never ever in a million years go to something like that, and just let them see it, let their minds be blown, and be curious and stuff. Like having some sort of out of the norm experience to go, oh, I did that. I'm really good. I can do anything. Like I was so worried about it.
And for Americans, especially, even just travel outside the borders.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd love to find a way to make it possible for everyone at age 18 to go to two entirely different countries. Like if you're an American, you go to Zimbabwe and Northern Ireland, or Australia and Japan, or something, because when you come back after doing something like that, you realize that the differences between you and your neighbor are minuscule.
Yeah. Right. You have a greater sense of self, like where we started.
Like our lives are so similar in the end, compared to some culture that you might visit, and the reality is most Americans don't even have a passport.
Yeah.
Like they do not know that.
I know
there's
people
a
that
world
have
out
never
there.
left the state that they were born in.
Yeah, exactly.
To prove your point, another thing that was in the news this weekend was a rally for unity in Ethiopia, where there was a blast and a new prime minister was speaking, and
during the rally for unity. Let's just be clear. Yeah. There was a bomb.
There was a bomb.
Yes.
And he still goes on to say, they're going through change, but this is, somebody saying, like, I can imagine myself saying this, this is, I don't know anything about this culture, and I read this and go, I feel this person is my matter, like we share something. But he says, love always wins, killing others is a defeat. To those who tried to divide us, I want to tell you that you have not succeeded.
Yeah.
Every culture has a way of finding, appreciation and an understanding that, like, we do need to come together. Like this is crazy. Like,
so that points to someones who are behind this bombing are threatened, like existentially threatened, by the fact that people are coming together. Like, what will get unearthed if humans actually act in mutual self-interest? Whose interests are being threatened that they need to toss a bomb into that to keep chaos going? Is a real parallel to what's happening in the US right now, right? Like, what the administration is doing more than anything is just keeping a steady stream of chaos.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who can benefit when that chaos is swirling and no one knows where to pay attention, and there's all kinds of ways to just
and it's just
take money from the till, essentially, right? It's kind of like, look over here, and you just keep taking money from the till. So if people came together in a show of unity, like they're doing in Ethiopia, and that worked, and there was a sort of steady stream of moving towards stability, then the forces that benefit and profit off of chaos will not be able to profit anymore. So they are highly incentivized in that case to throw bombs. In our case, it's tweet bombs. It's a daily barrage of tweet bombs that keep us like always in this like realm of chaos and chaos in our minds, and not being able to settle and say, like, you know what, that tweet bomb actually doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's so disgusting, like this whole jacket and Melania, and it's
a perfect tweet bomb.
It's perfect, because now you're distracted on that, and we almost need to program ourselves to go, okay, that is ridiculous and totally meaningless. So let's look what am I missing? Like, what's going on right now? Why did they have to put out something that's so distracting that everybody would be talking about and is so social media relevant, that what else is going on? Like, that's the new programming. Like, that's a distraction. Don't let yourself get sensitive by it. Don't spend 30 minutes talking to a girlfriend or your parent or your lover about that. Go, what else am I missing?
Yeah, and what you're missing by and large is someone directly pulling money out of something. There's a very interesting interview with Donald Trump talking about his failed casinos in Atlantic City, and of course, all the contractors that he just walked out of contracts, and he closed a ton of small businesses that he never paid, and all the money that he turned over, and then of course went bankrupt. And the essence of the question was essentially like, do you feel bad in any way about how Atlantic City went and the fact that you had to close all your casinos, you went bankrupt, all these people? And his response was, I pulled a lot of money out of that city. Like, the rest doesn't matter. All of that was a circus distraction. The bankruptcy, the not paying, the contractors, all of that to him is one big look over here, while his other money, his hand is in the till, just sucking money out of the city. And now he's doing the same thing at the federal level.
Yeah.
Right? And all his cohorts, all of this nonsense is just to take our attention while they're just taking money out of the treasury.
Isn't there a big document that's publicized right now about just a total reorganization of government that we all should be? It's like a 134-page PDF. I'll post it in the archives, guys. My friend mentioned it this weekend. I haven't read it yet, but that's like, every time you get seduced by the jacket, the nonsensical, inappropriate behavior tweet or news story, that's the things that we should be reading.
Someone is pulling money from somewhere while that's happening.
Forget book club. I mean, that should be the new book club. Read government documents. Like, really.
Who will, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I mean, if we, this is another form of unity. Like, we can come together. I don't want to read that 132-page document by myself. I'm pretty sure that I'll hit on some things that I don't understand. It would be better to do that over a series of dinner parties with friends. I mean, let's find a way, to. Even that is a loving example of this is how we move towards it. Like, let's come together, we'll read a chapter of it or a couple pages together, over wine. We'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll keep going. And
we'll probably need some self-care after the 134 pages and we see what they want to do.
There will be cannabis involved. Let's just be real. We live in California. These are honestly, anything, if there's anything that I could encourage from all of this is there's always a way to be more inclusive with people as opposed to being exclusive, and let's get creative. Let's get creative. We know all of this. I think most people know that there's a lot of smoke and mirror going on right now, but doing something about it, not feeding into it, not letting yourself get upset, and trying to find something else to do with that time is what's important, I think.
Yeah, and I will come back to, even if I'm repeating myself a little bit, I feel that for me, when the motivation changes, my ability for longevity in these kinds of actions increases. Meaning, if my motivation is, I feel sorry for you, or I want to make something better for you, or can I help you, it can feel like a drain. Even if I am using service as source, like eventually I just feel like I'm just giving. Mm-hmm. If I change the motivation to, I need you to do better because you are me. Mm-hmm. I need you to not be struggling right now because I am you. I need your child to have a safe place to live because that is my child too. Mm-hmm. right? If I change that, then it doesn't feel like the same kind of drain. And it feels like, it does feel like in some subtle way a gathering of people who are acknowledging that we are each other, which is more powerful than I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you, I hope I can make it a little better.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need to feel bad for you. I need you to like rise up.
Yeah.
And be better.
In that call, I'm hearing action too, which is a big difference than, oh, I feel bad for them. You know, it's like, okay, I can take action, even if it's a little step. And, you know, again, I just want to go back to, you know, for people that have said, well, I've tried that lovey thing, or I've tried unity and it didn't work. You know, you might have tried it in your own little small group, which we talked about earlier. Like, yeah, that happens in groups, but this is a continuous try. This is a developing a habit try. You know, like you can't stop after one, you know, session or try. It would be like every diet that's ever failed. Like, you know, like that's why they fail, because you're not changing your lifestyle. So that's what needs to happen, is more people need to kind of come together and go, you know what, we'll support each other when we have these tries and these little fails, you know, that they're not really fails, I shouldn't say that, these little growth pains, let's call them. We'll support each other, but we'll just keep going, because eventually things will change. And change, every time I hear of like hard, massive change, I always think of like gear shift. And like if you're had these gears and they're turning this way and then you try to turn them another direction, it's going to be friction, you know? It's expected, but move past it and get to the other side. I know the other side's better. Just feel that. So we said something earlier that I said would be a good social challenge. You remember what it was? I kind of lost track. We've said a lot of things. I like to issue, you know, something to try. What did we talk about that was like, ooh, that's a good one. It will come back to me. We talked about traveling. Like, so if this concept of like unity feels woo-woo to you, or feels kind of foreign to you, like what can we encourage people to try? Definitely one of them is like every time you find something in the news that you're feeling really sensitive about, and it's just an emotional sensitivity, it has nothing to do with real policy, it's just more about a tone, or somebody said something and it's a little inappropriate, definitely shift into what more is going on here. And
yeah, I would encourage people to the extent that you can, when you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling like that bull in the china shop, you're acting out of fear, to take a step back, and likely you're feeling separation in that moment. You're definitely feeling separated from other people, most likely your surroundings. And can you have the wherewithal to say, wow, actually, you are me, so why am I behaving this way towards you? You don't have to say it out loud, do it in the back of your head. And like, what if I was that person? Can I put myself not just in their shoes, but really feel like we are one? And how does that change my reality right now and the way that I want to interact with it?
Yeah.
And you can do that with people you love. You can do it with people you don't like so much. It's a lot of fun to try to do it with people you don't like so much.
Yeah.
Because what if you are one with the people you don't like so much? How does that shift the way you behave with them and when you're not with them?
Yeah. I know what it was. It was our main topic, inspired by your bio, service as source.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, so everything that he just said, but as you're feeling this, try to find something that you can do as a service. And I guarantee this idea of like service as source, it comes back to you. You're going to have more clarity and understanding of the whole situation. And yeah, put yourself in a situation where you're loving on people that you don't agree with. Even if it's just for a moment, you know, it's a step to understand and relate. I mean, I'd like to see America relate again. If there's if we're going to do anything with that tagline, let's just relate with each other. But service as a source is definitely the social challenge, huh?
Just need a hat.
I need a hat.
Make America relate again.
Oh gosh, I need a hat.
That'd be good.
It won't be red. I'll tell you that right now. All right. Well,
no, it'll be purple. Clearly.
It will be purple.
It's gotta be purple.
Clearly, it's gonna be purple. All right. Well, this was amazing. This is so good to have you here and talk about this. We could definitely talk for hours about it. I am going to definitely sit with Francis afterwards and see if there's any resources that we can add to the archive that would be beneficial to people. Maybe books that you've read that have been really inspiring to you, because I'm pretty sure you've got some things. And he's a fabulous writer, and I'll make sure that I share his links on Medium to some of the things that he's wrote too. So the last thing we get to do together, Francis, is I always ask, or give the opportunity rather, for the guests to do a heart swell. And what a heart swell is just an opportunity to give a shout out to someone. Maybe it's a dedication, you know, sometimes it might be like an act of forgiveness, who knows, you know, what it is, but just to say, you know, I see you, I feel you, I thank you, you know, I love you. The reason why I like doing these is to let people know it's not so hard to express deep emotion, and we should do this more. You know, so just putting out that love and empathy in the world. So first of all, are you willing to do one?
Yeah, of course.
And do you have someone in mind?
Yeah.
All right. So talk to that person.
So this is for Iran Zahavi. Had a great run of working with Iran for almost a year, and unfortunately he went through a very hard accident last year, got paralyzed actually in a very bad accident. And just my heart goes out to you, brother. Really always thinking for your improvement, for your physical improvement, always for your, you know, you're always an emotional rock for everybody, and just letting you know that you don't always need to be. There's a lot of people there for you, and even if you know, we don't talk every day, that always sending you love and light to bring around your full healing, and you know, along with that, the gratitude that I have for having worked with you for all that time.
Awesome. Hope he hears that, feels that. I felt that. I wish there was a way via video that I could let people feel how I feel in a moment, you know, because that's what this is about, you know, sitting down and actually talking to someone and looking in their eyes and connecting. Wish people were doing that more, so thank you for that. So Francis, you guys can find more about Francis and the company that he works for, Paper Lantern. It's paperlantern.co. As mentioned, he writes on Medium, medium.com. He's just Francis DellaVecchia there, and I'll share all that in the archive and probably ask for some more things when we're done. Next week's show is going to be a good one as well. It's Ben Shirley, who is he is a recovering heroin addict. He's going to be talking about the downtown missions and how they saved him, and how he was homeless for, I believe, 27 months. And he is a fabulous musician, easy for me to say, on top of that. It's going to be lots of storytelling on next edition of Relatable. I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Encourage everybody to take the social challenge, and I'll write that up too, so you have some instructions. And if you do take it, you can reach out to Francis or I and let us know how you did. So find me on Love More Now on Twitter, and then Relate with Steph on Instagram. And just a reminder, there's a public shared experience coming up this week on Thursday here in the space. It's 7 p.m. It's just a chance for us to relate on a deep level. We do have some spots open for that, so hopefully you can come and relate with us. And other than that, we'll see you on the archives. And as always, relate with more curiosity. See you next week.